Today is Tuesday, February 20th, 2024, and this is the Cult of Kindness podcast. Well, if you follow the Cult of Kindness podcast on social media, you know that I, a few weeks back, gushed about the guest that is on this week, as this is my kindness soul sister. Please welcome Natalie Randall.
Hi, Mercy. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Natalie. It's so funny. It was at this wellness tea I did recently, and someone came up to me and they were like, "Really, you a mean girl at one time?" I was like, "Oh yeah." And so that got me to thinking about, one, because I miss you, but two, I need to have Natalie on, and we need to talk about our past experiences and how we are where we are today because of those experiences. So, Natalie, if you could tell the audience about yourself and how we met.
Okay. So I am a Splunk practitioner in the Denver metro area, and I'm also a full-time real estate agent. And my background is that, I coming out the doors in life did not have an easy start at it. I grew up in a home that was really, really broken. And that kind of created this environment where I was an easy target for bullying, but also where I kind of learned to fight back and be mean in that respect too, so that I could keep everybody, at arm's length, like, don't talk to me, don't touch me, I'm mean.
Yeah.
And so you and I mean, the way that you and I connected it was during COVID, and I think, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And, we were all in lockdown, and I was trying to make connections with amazing people just because the only way to do that was through Zoom. And I stumbled across your article in Voyage Denver, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's just something about her. I need to know her. And so then we connected and realized we're both recovering mean girls and that we think kindness matters. And so, yeah, the rest is kind of history.
It is. Yeah. And it's so funny. For myself, like growing up, I was most of the time the only Black girl in school. And so when I was very little, I don't really recall anything happening. But as I got older, this was something I realized. And then I realized things that were occurring was because I was the only Black girl. And I had like a very sensitive heart, and I had to create, like you, a mechanism to ward this off. And I did that. But then the thing was, like, I'm 23 and I'm like still a mean girl, and it wasn't necessary.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So how long would you say your mean girl period continued past the point you didn't need it anymore?
Gosh, I don't know. I would say that there's always been periods of life where, maybe I'm not paying attention and I can have this knee-jerk reaction of, being defensive, which I wouldn't say is mean girl anymore per se. But I think what's really been pivotal for me in feeling safe and vulnerable is, the work that I do has helped a lot with that. But yeah, every now and again, I mean, I think it depends on the environment. I mean, I definitely want to be a mean girl if some person is trying to, attack me on the streets, right? Like I don't want to be a gentle dove in that situation.
Yeah.
So I think, the circumstances are, I mean, I don't see myself that way anymore. More than anything, I find that I'm kind of on the receiving end of it, just because I have RBF.
Oh,
so I get judged a lot for that. And I'm like, oh my God, I will tell you, like, probably 70% of girlfriends that I have in my life are like, when I first met you, I thought you were the biggest beep. And I'm like, it's my face. I'm sorry. Like, I can't do anything about it. But yeah.
Awesome. I know. So once you are told, like, you have RBF, do you find yourself trying to correct it in settings where you're like, it probably looks like that right now?
Yeah. I think sometimes, I mean, because you want people to feel safe around you, or feel like they can be open around you. And so I think in some respects, I still try to, like, oh yeah, smile and just so that people are like, oh, I can talk to her. She's approachable.
Right.
But most of the time, it's not really, I'm not in a bad mood or anything like that. I'm just in my head and I'm a deep thinker. And so I'm,
Mhm.
just lost in thought instead of remembering, oh, I'm at a social situation. I should probably smile so people don't think I'm bad.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, it's so funny. So in today's climate, everything is heightened. Like we're kids of the '90s, and it was pretty go with the flow still at that time. Um, how do you feel like growing up in a period where we had a lot of, let's say, freedom to express ourselves, and to now live in a time where we really have to think before we speak?
Mhm.
uh, do you find that complicated, or is it easy now that you're in a different place in life?
I think it's easy, just because I think, my life coach taught me something that's really powerful. And she said, your energy introduces you before you ever will. Right. And so
Mm,
for me, if I'm in a good space energetically and I have my posture of the heart, postured properly, I feel
yeah,
like you can still deliver, moments of needing to speak freely, but doing so in love and kindness to
right,
where it's still received really well. I mean, I think, Marcy, our relationship is a testament of that, right? I would say that you and I probably don't agree across the board on
right,
several things.
right.
Because there's a deeper connection of love and respect, we still
Yes.
have in a posture of our heart that
Mhm.
um, we're just getting together to express ourselves and love on each other, that there's never this misperception of hurting the other person's feelings. Or if I did, if I ever hurt your feelings,
Right,
I would hope that you would feel comfortable coming to me and saying, hey, when you said that, that kind of rubbed me wrong. Of course I would apologize. But I
sure.
do think, the more healing that everybody does, and the more we posture ourselves properly, I think that we can have and navigate difficult conversations and just freedom to speak whatever comes across our mind.
Exactly. Yes, that's one of the things I actually miss about that era, and up to, let's say, 2010. You know, uh, it is okay to not see eye to eye on everything. And I think there's something, I'm not even sure where those lines became blurred, where, oh, if we don't see the same way and feel the same way about everything, we can't be friends. I can't subscribe to that. I mean, because that's a part of growing and learning together, where you're able to have those friendships and see and respect another person. It's not like, oh, that's a horrible person because we don't believe the same on everything. That's not realistic.
No, no. And I
Yeah.
think understanding each other's story is really important in that, right? Because
Right.
our perceptions form, and our stories form so much of our perceptions, that when we can truly understand where someone else is coming from, it makes
Mm-hmm.
it so much easier to see things from their point of view. It doesn't mean you're necessarily going to agree with them, but
Right.
kindness follows, because you're learning about the other person and you're seeing things from their perspective, instead of kind of this knee jerk reaction and just going straight to judgment.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I I just, there's so many people that I know, or situations I've been in, where, people are making an effort to just be around like minds, so to speak. And it's
Mhm.
like, okay, but we're not going to grow that way. I
Right.
mean, it's like, I always think about in high school, one of the things we should have as a requirement for graduation is debate, because we need to learn how to have those healthy and uncomfortable conversations and still be able to be friends on the other side of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a
Yeah,
great skill set to have.
it is. I
So,
don't know, like, just current day, sometimes if you see either a Democrat or Republican talking on a talk show, and they'll say, oh, I'm friends with, a number of people on the other side, and people are blown away. It's like, come on, it's like, that is just a point of view they have on this set of things over here. This is not, it doesn't mean the person doesn't have a good heart or anything like that. And so everything seems so fractured. I'm not even quite sure we'll get back there, but I do know that each individual can make a difference. So
yep.
that That's the point.
Totally agree. I think that I really believe that we're granted, and this probably isn't the right, you know me, my words aren't always perfect, but
Yeah.
we're granted this authority, so to speak. And when I say authority, I don't mean like ruling over someone. I mean like
Right.
permission.
Hmm.
We're granted this permission with the people that we have in our lives. And this
Right.
permission that we're granted is to extend that kindness and that love to them. And
Right.
then, and it creates that ripple effect, right? So that
Right.
if we raise our children to be kind, if we raise our children to be, compassionate or loving or whatever, then now they're doing that to their friends at school, and then their friends do that to their friends. And so I
Yeah.
just think it's a really powerful way to, we can't change, one person cannot change the whole world, right? But we can change our sphere, and then our sphere can create that ripple effect, and eventually, hopefully change things for the better. But yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love what you brought up earlier, where when you're in the world, just because you are leading with kindness, it doesn't mean that you're a pushover, like wrong is wrong. Uh, we're going to stand up for wrong when we see it, It is just about a, a way of being, but it
mhm.
doesn't mean just because you're a kind person that you can't see anything for what it truly is. I think
Yeah,
that's always important to say.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, you're right. I mean, there's boundaries. Boundaries are so important, and boundaries in a lot of ways even allow us to practice kindness even more, right? So, because if we have boundaries, we're not overextended, we're standing up for things that are morally wrong, whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
That way our energy is somewhat protected in that, and then, we're not so exhausted from putting on masks. We're just wearing different hats instead. And so we're able to extend, I think, even more kindness when we're very resolute in who we are as a person and our identity. But also in knowing, hey, I'm going to operate in integrity, and integrity for me looks like,
Yeah.
standing up for what I believe in, but doing so in kindness. So
Oh,
yeah.
sure. Yeah. When you think about it, like if you could go back and have a conversation with your teenage self, what would you tell her today?
Oh gosh. I don't even know her anymore. She's very different now. I always had a really compassionate and tender heart. That is true. I served in third world countries and fed orphans, and
Mm.
um, even as a teenager. And I think I would just tell her that the inability for someone to be kind is not a reflection of me, it's a reflection of them. And it's an
Mm.
internal battle that they're dealing with something difficult and hard. And
Yeah.
I think if I could really wrap my mind around that as a teenager, it probably would have given me a little bit more tools in my tool bag to be able to have those conversations with people who were not being kind, myself included.
Right.
you
Right.
know, on how to, on what can I, gosh, you always seem so upset, or you seem to really struggle with me. What can I do to make that different? What have I'm sorry if I've hurt you, whatever. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I would say probably that just reminding myself that it's more of a reflection of something they're dealing with internally, or some kind of hurt that they have, and that's how they're protecting themselves, or how
Mm.
they're responding to that in their life. So yeah.
That's very true. Yeah, that's a great point. And I mean, I think even in my early 20s, just when I first got out in the world, I was going out in the world. So even though I had the mean girl way, I still had the tender heart. And there
Mhm.
were just some situations I had never encountered before. And then when I would go through that, I'm like, what kind of person even can channel like that amount of filth,
Yeah.
and and you're right, like you have to remember it has nothing to do with you and more about what they are lacking or what they're going through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I mean, we can use that even current day because
Yeah.
sometimes,
It's still very applicable. Yes.
yeah, yeah, it really is. Well, Natalie, gosh, I'm so glad that you connected with me back in 2020, and that was so nice because sometimes, like when you're doing the work being kindness, you feel like, well, I might be doing it alone, but I'm going to keep going. And it just was so nice to have someone reach out and have the same experience that I have had, and to be able to get on the other side of it. And so I just, I'm grateful that you reached out, and I'm grateful that you're a part of my life, and that we're here today on the podcast and being able to, one, show people, okay, we don't have to look the same to share a similar goal of kindness. And two, you can get on the other side of being a mean girl, because I think current day there's still many mean girls in the world. And it's like, you might think it's cool, but it really is not. Uh, it's cool to just let your kindness and good character show. And are there any closing words that you would like to say to the cult of kindness?
I mean, I would just encourage people to keep letting their light shine. Darkness cannot overcome light. And so, I think going back to when we think about why people struggle with kindness, right?
Yeah.
It's always something so much deeper.
Yeah.
And it's not a good deeper, right? Like it's something that's happened to them. And so, that darkness that they're operating in, as just a reaction to things that have happened to them, your light has the ability to overcome that darkness in them. And I think if we can, continue to reach out to the people who don't always demonstrate kindness, right?
Yeah.
And maybe you get a grumpy cashier at the store or whatever, which has happened to me, and I always try to smile at them and say, "Hey, how are you today?" Because a lot of people don't acknowledge them, right?
Right.
Um, and that changes them. I heard a really good story, so I'll leave it at this. I heard a really good story about someone who would, when they had a grumpy cashier check them out, they would try to engage them in conversation and just say, "Oh, I can't decide which candy bar to get. What's your favorite?" And then that
Oh,
person would say, "Oh," the cashier would say, "Oh, I really like Snickers." And the person would buy the Snickers and then hand it to the cashier
oh
and
my
say, "I
gosh.
hope you have an amazing day." And I was like, that's so
Oh,
practical and easy. Like,
no.
just such a good way to spread kindness. And I mean, obviously, I know what you do to spread kindness. And so, I just a reminder that darkness cannot overcome light. And so that when we are in a space of other individuals' darkness, like it's our job to let our light shine,
Yes.
to hopefully change that trajectory for them. So,
Mhm. Oh,
yeah.
that gave me goosebumps. That's awesome.
Well,
I think
thanks.
I'm going to do that if I encounter, which can be often sometimes,
Yeah.
a grouchy checkout lady.
Yeah. Well, and the poor thing probably got yelled at by some person earlier in the day, and
Right?
they're just trying to do their job. They're just trying to do their job
I
and all of
know.
that. So, yeah,
Oh, oh, that's good stuff. Thank you for sharing that.
of course. Thanks for having me.
Yes. All right, all. Natalie is also a real estate agent. So if you live in the Denver area or the metro area, Natalie, where can people find you?
Gosh, a lot of places they could, they could find me. If you just Google my name, you'll find me. And that's probably the easiest way.
Yeah.
I am, obviously I'm on Facebook. And my website is getting a revamp right now. So the URL isn't operational, but the name of my brand is North Denver Suburbs. And so it is plural, but that's once that gets fixed, they'll be able to find me that way again too. So
Okay.
yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. We didn't discuss that, but I wanted to give you a shout.
Thank you. You're so sweet.
All right, all. Thank you for listening this week. And Natalie, thank you so very much for being on. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you too.
All right, all. Take care. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.